All right, so when you do a platter, make sure that you get it wedged really well, and make sure that you don't catch any little creases down inside of the bottom of it, because the crease, you'll be able to see it when it's done. So just make sure you get that out of there completely, have a nice and smooth base to it when you put it down on there so that it's ready to go. So put it on there. So I didn't quite get to center, so I'm going to go ahead and kind of push it closer to start with. And if I've pushed it much, give it another smack on the top of it. Now, the difference between plates and platters and the rest of the things that you've thrown before is that you've usually centered relatively high. For this one, you're going to center kind of low, but you can work it in, basically. You'll notice that my hand travels up the clay as this one stays put and pushes into it and stays stable. And then this hand kind of gets it centered on the other side and then travels up it with pressure and goes completely over the top of it. And that helps pull it into place. So I'm going to make sure the base is really, really centered first. So make sure there's nothing under my wrist at all. Push in. Okay, now I'm going to lower this because with plate you want to start nice and low. So lower it down a little bit. I'm going to take the water out of here so it doesn't get caught right next to it on the wheel head. Then I'm going to hold the sponge on my hand when I do this, or actually first I'm going to go ahead and spread it out just a little bit more. So I'm going to press now with my strong hand. So I'm right-handed, so it's my strong hand pushing, and I'm going to push down in the center, and I'm going to actually push against it. It's not very often that you ever go against when it's coming at you. Usually you work with it. I'm going to go against it to spread it out. You'll notice that all the time my hands, if they possibly can, are working together, because when your hands are together, they're much stronger and stable. So I'm going to make that come out a little ways like that and get it centered on there. Now I'm going to open it, and that I'm going to do with my sponge on top of my hand so that I can just squish it with my thumb, and that will release water onto it because this does dry out very quickly. So I'm going to push in, kind of get a feel for, you want to have this kind of level to start out with. So it's about 1 inch thick, so I need to push down so that it's between 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch thick. You do want to stay a little bit thicker on a plate because especially if you do turn it over to trim it, you want to have something there to trim and so that you don't accidentally go through. So I'm going to go down about 1/2 inch right here and pull that water out so you can see it better to start with. And then I'm going to start pulling out. Now this, if I just pulled like this, the stuff that's right underneath my hand here would actually curl over and come off of there. So I need to make sure that doesn't happen. So with my other hand, I'm going to keep pressure down so that this levels out as I'm pulling it out. So I'm going to pull out. This does take some strength, so holding your breath actually helps. And then the other thing is to make sure that you're nice and stable, whatever you're doing. So I have both elbows down on my legs so that it won't come out. You'll notice it's spreading further as I do this, so I want to be careful that I don't drop it off the end of the bat. Now the hard thing is going to be to not go up or down when you're pulling out with the plate. So you have to make sure that you're coming level. You can do a compression, and I would highly recommend it with plates. The more you pull the clay, the more it kind of spreads apart the particles inside of the clay. So I need to compress it to make sure that those particles get pushed back together again. So I'm going to push down through, not a pretty hard, steady push down through my fingers, and you'll notice again my hands are together to do this. So give it a good push. I just got a lot of slip on the sponge, so I want to wash the sponge off. I'm going to do another one, going from center out. That looks pretty good. Okay, now I'm pretty close to the end. Now, if I was on a black bat, I would have gone past the bat pinholes at this point, and no matter what you do, when you pull that off of there, it will suction down in, and I guarantee you, you're gonna have a huge S-crack, if not even actually pulling the thing in half. I've had a few people do that, so gotta be on brown bats to do these. So if you have brown bats for anything else that you're working on, try to keep those just for the plates and platters for this time period. So now I'm gonna treat it just like a cylinder. So I'm gonna pull up on the sides, I'm gonna push in, together with my fingers. Want to be careful that that doesn't fold over on the top there. I'm going to compress the rim just a little bit there. So push in. Be careful, this does have a tendency to dry out pretty quickly. Go for water if it's starting to grab. And then as soon as you get the sides up a little bit, slow your wheel down. Otherwise, centrifugal force will pull it out for you. So, push in, pull straight up. Now this, in and of itself, is a platter, just by not pushing down the sides to become a plate. So that's the difference between the two. The platter is basically used for things like, meat served on the table, or something that needs a little bit of an edge to it, but not like a bowl, basically. So. Cookie platter, if you think of it that way. So I'm going to slow this down quite a bit because there's a little bit of a wobble there. So I'm going to thin, but I don't want to get too thin on the way up here because I am going to spread this when I push it down to a plate. So I'm going to have to be kind of careful and leave a little thickness there. Before I do much to the rim, I'm going to take care of the water on the inside of it. Because if I do anything to this after I push down the sides, it's more likely to accidentally fall over. Now the trick to a plate, so this would be a platter, just take it off, go from there. Now the thing about the plate, so I'm going to go ahead and lay this down. I don't know where my tool just went. There we go. So you're going to want one of the wood tools. And you want to use one that has curves on it. So this one has kind of a curved edge to it. So make sure that you have the curve. And I'm going to just use a little slip on it to get it slippery. And the curve, I'm going to brace myself again. I'm going to level it up with the plate right now. And I'm going to slowly rock it downward. Now it's important that you don't have a hand on the outside of this at this point, because if you had a hand on the outside, it actually creates a little bit of a suction and it will make it fall down. So right now there's still tension on the outside. It wants to stand up and you're pushing it down. It will keep the tension so that it doesn't just flop. Now with these, you're going to have to be very careful taking them off of the wheel and setting them down on tables and all that kind of stuff. I would even pull the pans off to do this. So just slide them, get your fingers underneath where you can feel the 3 dots, because that's where the bat pinholes are. Okay, there's the 3 dots. Go find the other set. Pick it up straight, and the reason that you find the 3 dots where the holes are is so that you don't accidentally pop it from the corner. So that's laying down pretty far. I need to be very careful with this. When I set it down on a table, I'm going to set it very gently and straight on. Don't let one side hit first on the table because it will pop that side over. Okay. Once it starts drying to leather hard, then it will be strong enough to hold itself. So it's okay. You can do some carving and stuff on that if you want to then, or decorating. So, okay. That's basically it. The thing that I will recommend though is if there's any water left over underneath the bat itself, what you need to do is kind of take care of that with water. I probably should have done that before I actually did this. To lay it down, it's not too bad under there. If there's water laying next to your pieces at that point in time, it will kind of eat away and soften the outside rim, and it can cause it to crack on you. So, okay, questions?